Hello everyone, I owe you a Q&A. It's been a little bit hectic, been a lot of projects that had to come out before Yom Tov. It's after Yom Tov, we're able to dive back into the music world. But before we do that, let me answer some of your questions. Some amazing questions came in through WhatsApp, email. YouTube had some great questions. So here we go, part one. I'm going to start off with a question that has nothing to do with music. I love this question. What's the worst snack decision? That's a great question. So we're in a small room, it's a studio room. Baruch Hashem, now we already have a kitchenette outside. However, before that, when you brought something in here, you have to be careful. When I found that out was someone brought in herring. We were snacking on herring and crackers. Boy, oh boy, the songs were quite fishy after that for a while. So herring, tuna, those things I learned in a studio that's this size, not a good idea. Okay, next. Most random place you've gotten musical inspiration. I mean, really, music could hit you anywhere. And when I started writing way back when, I would write more, walking in the street, going into stores. I remember it was Erev Pesach, and Pesach was Sunday, Monday. So I had gotten to my shul at about 7:30. There was an earlier minyan before that, so I had to pass by that minyan. They were holding in the middle of Kedusha. And I got stuck in that minyan for a second to finish Kedusha. They were up to Mim Kaimcha, and that's where I wrote the famous Shweki song, Mim Kaimcha, Malikeinu. It was 7:30 in the morning, still a little groggy. Coffee hadn't totally hit yet. So that was an interesting place and I had to remember it for 3 days. Mind you, that wasn't easy. Where else? So this is a Gabay song. Zarachaya, Zarachaya Vikayam. I remember where I was. I was walking in an alleyway between a bakery and a cleaners, and the song just popped in. And there are many such stories. We don't have time to cover all that. But yeah, definitely interesting question. I love that question. What's one piece of advice you wish you got earlier in your career? Ooh, that's a great question. I would say probably don't take rejection of your songs to heart. In the beginning, I had to get used to someone not liking my song. I would say, what do you mean you don't like it? I worked so hard on it. But just because I like it doesn't mean he should like it. As a producer, understand that just because you have a certain vision in your head doesn't mean the singer is going to sing it that way, and it takes time to cultivate that sound, what you're looking to do and what you're trying to get out of the singer. So basically it's the same as with songwriting. Whether you're rejecting someone else or someone else is rejecting you, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the end of the line. You just have to get up, dust yourself off, and really try to re-explain your position again, and be willing to work, especially as a songwriter. If a guy likes the low part, doesn't like the high part, it's fine. Redo it again. Be ready to work for the guy. So here's a question that came in on YouTube. This is a great question. Do you ever listen back to a song after it's released and wish you could change something? How do you know when a song is done? That is a superb question, because that's another thing that I was not taught early in my career and something I had to learn. You can always try to make something more perfect than it is, but you'll never release your song. Ultimately, at some point, you have to make peace with the project you're in, and you have to be happy with it. If it's good to your ears, forget the word perfect. I have guys that come in here and tell me sometimes, listen, this has to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. Beis Hamikdash was perfect. The songs there were perfect. We don't live in the world of perfect. It has to sound good. It has to move me emotionally. If that's what I'm doing and I can hear that, I've done my job. Now, having said that, when I listen back to a song right away afterwards, typically I don't think I could have done something different because I'm still very connected to the changes that I made. But here's where it gets tricky. If I listen back to a song a year later, so now I have another year of experience, and music has advanced, songwriting has advanced, tunes and harmonies have advanced, then it's a tricky situation. Then you go, ooh, I don't like the way he sounds, I don't like the way I sound, my tuning is really bad. But that's a great question. Definitely, and I guarantee you most producers after a while when they listen back to what they've done, it really is like, ooh, I could have done that, I could have done this. Why didn't I do that harmony? I remember when I was sitting with my family in the car, we were listening to an old album that I produced, and I couldn't believe the amount of harmonies I missed. Now the song sounds amazing, no one knows. But now that I know what I'm doing today, there's no question that there are things I would have done different. But that's part of the growing process. I wouldn't have gotten to this point today if I hadn't done that. So that's a very important building block to get me to what I'm doing today. Did you ever or do you ever get burned out of music? If yeah, how do you get through it? Also, what's the weirdest compliment you ever got about a song? Okay, loving the behind the scenes series. Okay, I'm glad I can help you out here with some more behind the scenes. So addressing your first question, did you ever get burnt out of music? At certain points, yes. Yeah, I remember there's a difference between burnt out and writer's block. I'm doing a lot of projects in one shot, then it can get pretty stressful, and you do need a break. You have to stop, you have to walk away from the studio for a couple of days, ear out, and then come back, and you have a lot of new energy, depending on what you do. And the truth is you can get burnt out in every business. If you're a contractor, if you're a painter, it doesn't matter whatever you're involved in. If you're doing a lot of it and there's a lot of pressure, you can definitely get burnt out. And it's something that I would recommend. Take a break, walk away from it, you'll come back with renewed energies. Now it happens to be I work with a lot of different singers, and because every singer brings their own, geschmack and their own voice and their own project, so it doesn't get very boring, Baruch Hashem. And in the songwriting process, we get to create a lot in the songwriting process. So I try not to get burnt out. If I feel I am, definitely take a break and come back later on. As far as writer's block, I remember sitting with Yossi Green and I asked him, do you ever get writer's block? And he said, what do you mean? You have the lyrics. You have the lyrics in front of you. The lyrics are your vehicle to write songs. And there's something I missed in my younger years. Even though I wrote a lot of songs, but I did have a writer's block for 6 months where I didn't open my keyboard. It's before I had the studio. Baruch Hashem, I remember when I built my studio, I was under a lot of pressure and I also hit the wall a little bit. And I was producing Davidi's album, or Kashpiro's album, Shweki's album. I was under a lot of stress. And I hit like about a month or two where I just was not getting proper material. Baruch Hashem, Siyata D'Shmaya, you have to always daven. And I was able to get out of that. But since then, I really institute, what Yossi Green said. If you have the lyrics in front of you, just go with the lyrics. Another good idea, if you have writer's block, I would say just write Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Use the words, sing it, make a new song to those words. It'll open up areas in your brain of creativity and you'll start writing again. What's one artist you've worked with who completely changed your perspective? Love that question. And the truth is I work with a lot of different artists here and everyone brings their own color and style. And I try to write for every one of them separately, like I wrote Chara Shofa Benny. But someone who did that for me consistently, I would say probably Tzvi Silverstein. Until I met Tzvi, I was going like a gerbil on a wheel, even though we were changing it up and I was doing different kind of songs, but still within a certain world. Tzvi Silverstein came along and totally blew up the writing world for me. And I started writing songs from one end to the other end. And it opened up the market for me in the songwriting, area all over the place for all different artists. If you could sing with anyone in history, who would it be and why? Wow, that's a great question and a deep question. Probably David HaMelech, the ultimate mizamer. And why? Because I feel like we're writing in 2D, 3D, three-dimensional form. You bring in David HaMelech, who's writing on such a higher level. Imagine him opening up all those levels of niggun and shira to be able to connect to Hashem through your songs. Just so many different dimensions open up. That's probably, somebody who I'd want to sing with, if he would agree. Going to a YouTube question. What's the process once you compose a song? Do you reach out to the singers you feel the songs fits best, or do the singers come to you and buy the songs? So many years ago when I started the writing process, about 30 years ago, I would do a lot of demos and send them out to singers randomly. There weren't that many, by the way. So I would send a CD to one singer, mailed it to his house. There was no email. I know I sound like an old man, and hoped to get a call or a written response. I did a lot of demos and I was tiring out from doing a lot of the demos and then people telling me, I like this, I don't like that. So it was becoming a tiring process. So I said, come down to my house. This is when I was still in New York. And I would sit with the singer. It was a little nerve-wracking because I had to perform, on the spot. He would leave after 3 hours and I wouldn't be able to write anything that's productive for him. I would feel a little, I got used to it, and I got used to knowing that not everyone likes your songs. Baruch Hashem, with Siyata D'Shmaya, I started trying to write for the singer, not forcing my opinion and my taste on the singer. I was trying to see what makes him tick. What does he like? and then try to get into his head and then adapt my writing process to what he wants. And that, Baruch Hashem, I was able to bring much more songs into the world. Of course, when I say I, there is no I. It's all the Siyata D'Shmaya, it's the Rabbeinu Shalom. I'm tremendously humbled at the fact that I have this scenery, this pipe that Hashem sends down inspiration, and I have this chus to be on the other end on receiving that. Okay, we'll finish this particular session with 2 more questions. And again, I thank you all for submitting your questions. We'll do a part 2, Mitzvah Shem. Submit your questions through WhatsApp, email, or YouTube. You could see all the information on my channel, where to send and submit your questions to. So here we go. What made you decide to write songs for others instead of keeping your compositions for yourself to be a singer? Do you ever regret not keeping any particular song to yourself? Love that question. If yes, which ones? Do I have to answer that? But yes, okay. One by one. My focus was when I started writing, this is many years ago, about 30 years ago, I was not looking to become a singer. I was looking to be a songwriter, and I was doing it as a business, to sell songs. I wasn't doing it for covet or glory or honor. It was just as a business. I make a song, you like it, you buy it, you pay me. Transaction done. I would say about 10 years ago, I did a couple of shows, made some appearances in concerts, and I spoke to my Rebbe a little later about it, asking him if I should get into the singing business, and he told me to slowly advance and see, myself into that part of the career. Moving on to his next question, do I regret ever selling a song and I wanted keeping it for my own? There are many, and this is the reason why I'm covering those songs. I don't regret selling them because at the time it's a transaction, but because of the ability of covering songs, I can get to do it myself again. So Mr. Shem will help put out new music and cover some more music. So, hopefully you'll hear more in the future, but as Hashem. Moving on to the final question for now. What's one thing most people misunderstood or misunderstand about the Jewish music industry? There are many, many points that I think people misunderstand about the Jewish music industry. Number 1, people are of the opinion that everyone's making a lot of money. Let me share, a piece of advice. Because someone's dancing on a stage and he's having a geschmacka time and you see it on statuses and on YouTube channels and he's wearing a nice suit or a chalat, it doesn't mean he's making a lot of money. It means he's a professional and he takes his craft seriously and he has to present himself properly, and in the world of social media, he has to present himself so that people will want to hire him. Don't make the mistake that people are rolling in money. They're not. Some singers are making a lot of money. Most are just trying to get by, especially the upstart artists, all trying to just get by and trying to promote themselves to be able to make a decent living. That's 1. 2, if you plan on joining this industry, please take this advice. Or whatever you budget for music, you got to triple that for marketing. People seem to think that they're going to put out a song, maybe a small video clip with a phone, and then they're going to blow up and people are going to fly them into France or to Israel to concerts. It doesn't work like that. It's a very competitive business. It's a very edgy business. Everyone's trying to get the inside track. So you have to make sure that you're constantly pumping money into marketing. Again, it doesn't mean you can't have Siyata D'Shmaya and you're going to find your crowd. It's much easier to find your crowd today than it was 10, 15 years ago. That's a fact. However, you need to make sure they see you. You need to make sure that you're present. All that costs money. Make sure that you're paying for a good video. Make sure you have marketing. Make sure you're in ads. Make sure you're posting yourself where everybody can see you, so there's going to be an identity and people will know who you are. They're going to connect your voice to your identity, and hopefully with all that hishtadlus you'll be matzliach, because it all comes down to Siyata D'Shmaya. Anyway, that ends part 1 or part A, and hopefully Mitzvah Shem you'll submit more questions. We have a lot more, and we'll get to some more questions Mitzvah Shem maybe next week or the week after. And stay tuned, a lot more music coming out. But as Hashem Yisbarach, thank you for paying attention.